Yesterday, I got a chance to test drive the refresh Model 3. I drove it for about 40 minutes, so I got a good feel of it, and I drove it pretty much right after driving the old Model 3, so I had a pretty good sense of what are the differences in practice. And the ride is absolutely amazing. It is much better, so much more comfortable. I had major complaints with the old suspension. The new one, I don't have a single complaint about the suspension. It's perfect. The vehicle is also noticeably quieter. We all know about that. But the big thing is, how about the turning signals and having no stock for gear shifts? Shifting gears, actually, and this will surprise some people maybe, I like no stocks for shifting gears. The main reason for that is, with shifting gears on the old Model 3, because it's not physical actually, there is a stock obviously, but not every single time when I, let's say, try to put it into drive, it doesn't always work. If I just get in the car and I'm about to drive, I try to do it, maybe the car hasn't recognized my phone fully or something like that. I'm not sure what happens. But it doesn't work every single time. It works most of the time. So maybe let's say out of 10 times, it's not going to work one time for me. But with shifting on the screen, actually, because I can see the change visually, I can see that, yeah, the gear actually changed. I actually liked that better. And also not having the stock in front of your wheel for the gear shifting, I felt like that gives me more space. So I actually liked that part. I thought maybe I would hate it, but that part I actually like. My friend though, who owns a Model X, he does not like gear shifting, but I think he's being a bit stubborn there. However, with turn signals, at first when I got into the car and I got on the road, on the highway, I actually liked it more. As long as I can keep my hands on the steering wheel, I actually liked it more than having stocks, because I don't need to move my hand as much. It's literally there already. I'm just holding my thumb there pretty much the whole time, and the buttons feel nice. You're never in doubt whether you pressed it or not. Now, roundabouts and turning signals. That's where it's a bit tricky, but I think for the most part, it's actually okay. Let me explain. There are certain circumstances where it's going to be a problem, but in reality, in practice, it's not a problem. I grew up in Europe and we have so many roundabouts there. Pretty much if you're going to drive, every day you are going to encounter a roundabout in most places, or in many places in Europe. Not the case at all in the US. You will almost never see a roundabout, and I had to... The reason why the test drive was so long is because I had to find a roundabout, and that was a difficult task to do here in Vancouver, actually. If you have a bigger roundabout with multiple lanes, you're going to be fine, because you're not going to turn your wheel so much that you're going to lose the turning signals. So for that, it's fine, and that's where you actually want to definitely use turning signals, because you got multiple lanes and you got so many vehicles, and you definitely want everyone to know what you are doing. But with really tight roundabouts, yeah, you're not going to use turn signals on those. I'm talking a roundabout with just one lane, but because it's just one lane, you don't really need to... I mean, the law says you need to use it, but in practice, because it's just one lane, you're not going to get into an accident if you don't use a turning signal, if the roundabout only has one lane and therefore it's a much tighter roundabout, a much smaller roundabout. So I was driving around and I felt pretty good about it, actually. You definitely need to get used to it though. So if you're quickly changing lanes, it felt a bit awkward, because at first I just had to look at my steering wheel physically just to turn on the turning signal, and I had to make one quick maneuver when I was changing lanes. I was coming basically from an off-ramp to sort of like a highway that's limited to a pretty low speed, so I didn't have any issues, but I had to make quick maneuvers, and I looked to see if there were any vehicles, and yeah, that felt a bit awkward. I would not be very comfortable giving a new refresh Model 3 to someone who hasn't really familiarized themselves with the new turn signals. But I think after just driving for about an hour, you're going to be quite familiar with these and you're going to sort of be used to them. There was one situation though where I was like, this was a terrible decision by Tesla to remove the stalks for the turn signals. And that is when I was driving back into the Tesla parking lot. So I the road went like this, and then I had to turn like this. And then immediately after turning right, I had to turn left again. So I turned right, no problem. And then my steering wheel was sort of like that. And then I had to turn left. So I started turning left and my steering wheel was already turned quite a bit. And then I was like, oh, my turning signal is not on, so I need to turn it on, but oh, there's no stock, so I didn't turn it on. So in low speed situations where you need to make big turns, probably you're not going to use turning signals with this vehicle because the wheel is going to be upside down and now the left turn is going to be the right turn because it's not going to be at the bottom, it's going to be at the top, I think, I'm not sure. And there's no time to really sit down and think when you're driving. So yeah, I just went with no turn signal. But in that situation, I don't think there was any harm to not show my turning signal. Basically, any situation that actually matters, it's no problem. Personally, I would like the stocks for the turning signals, but now that I have thought it through, it's fine. However, in places where people really want to comply with every single law, like in Germany, this I think is definitely going to be a con. Now, we also generally know that Tesla likes to sometimes get ahead of itself. I think the current turning signals are going to be much better than stocks with steer-by-wire systems. And I assume that in the long term, probably Model 3s will have steer-by-wire, I'm not sure. But if that's the direction that Tesla is planning to go towards in the future, then yeah, no stocks is definitely the right move. I think one reason why my friend hates the turning signal so much on his Model X is because I don't think it feels like a proper button. I haven't tried it myself, but from what I read and what I understand, it feels, and the Model 3, which it felt really good, is what makes it much better. Because yeah, if it didn't feel like a proper button, I would not be happy with these turning signals.